In this lesson, I will show you how to refactor a Node.js Express website containing static HTML into a proper backend application that uses the Model View Controller, or MVC pattern, to serve content. In the previous lesson, we left off with a Git repository containing a Module1 branch with static HTML in it. I'm going to begin by opening PowerShell using the shortcut on the taskbar. Switch to the website directory, and if I issue a dir or directory command, I can see the files and folders there. I can also type in git status, and it shows that this is a Git repository and I'm on Module1 branch. The first thing I'm going to do is make a new branch, and you do that with git checkout -b for new branch and module2. And it says I switched to branch module 2. If I type git status again, I'm on module 2. Now if I type a directory command, I still have the same files and folders. This is an important concept. What we're doing is we're starting as a base with module 1. We're going to make a new branch off of that and do our work under a different branch. Now everything is still the same here. One thing I'm going to do, which the book shows you, is to use a npm package called nodemon. You're going to find that as we're doing this lesson, we're going to be editing and changing files and constantly having to restart the server. Nodemon is a package that makes this easier. I'm just doing this now so I don't forget. Now at this point in time, I have everything I need. And remember the shortcut I showed you last time. I can type in code space dot, and that will open VS Code in this current folder. First thing I want to point out is down in the left corner, you notice it says module 2 next to this symbol. That is because VS Code supports or understands GitHub repositories. Actually, it understands all source control, but since we're using Git, it recognizes Git. This is a handy feature, and it lets you work with Git commands right directly within your editor. So at this point, we left off, we have views, which we haven't done anything with, and index and users, and currently all the HTML is in the static public folder. The first thing I'm going to do is to create a new top-level folder. I'm going to create a new top-level folder called app_server. This is where we're going to put the application code for the backend web server. With this folder created, I'm going to now move the routes and the views folder. And notice as soon as I do that, you see this counter change. This is VS Code. It's actually not VS Code, but it's actually Git that's keeping track of the changes, and VS Code is simply displaying them there. So now I've got a folder called App Server. I've got my routes and views underneath, location, logic, to show the new location. So here I've got index router and users router, and they're pointing to the old location. So I'm going to insert app_server in both. And down here where the view engine is configured, it's saying views comes from the current directory plus a subdirectory called views. And then we moved them into under app server. So I'm going to add an extra parameter of app server. At this point, if we did everything correctly, I can go back to PowerShell. I can type in nodemon. The application starts running. I can go to localhost, and you can see that we have the backend web server running now under app server instead of the top level directory. If we look at the code within the index.js in the routes folder, you can see that we have router, get, and slash, which is the home or the main part of the website. This highlighted code here is called an anonymous function. This is what it runs or executes when a GET request to the root folder in a website comes in. This logic is about behavior. This logic is what belongs in a controller. So we're going to take and move this logic into its proper location in a controller within our application. So I start by selecting App Server, clicking New Folder. We're going to create controllers. And within here, we're going to create a new class called main.js. This new file is going to handle the requests. And so we'll start with const index equals. And this logic is something that you're just going to have to pick up over time. It's not going to be obvious as a beginning student just doing this for the first time. So I just want to warn you that it takes a little time to wrap your head around all these concepts. But what's going to happen is when a request comes in, we're going to assign it to this index variable. This is the logic that's going to happen when these requests come in. And use something called fat arrow, another cute JavaScript name. And now I'm going to do, on the response, I'm going to render the index page or the index view. And I'm going to, give it title of Traveler Getaways. Actually, I forgot to include this curly braces. That's why it's complaining. Go over to the end. Closing curly brace. I like to put semicolons in. So now I've got a controller that will take and render on the response object the index page with a title of Traveler Getaways. And for this module, I need to export it. So I'm going to say module exports equals index, because that's the variable that I just created here. Save this. Back on the index page, I'm going to replace this logic by doing two things. First, I need to import the controller. And I do so by requiring this class file be included. Now keep in mind that index is under routes. So I'm going to go to parent directory and watch when I type slash. VS Code is smart enough to know what I'm doing, understand the code, and show me the directories above there. And I can choose controllers. And up it comes with main. It's kind of cool. Semicolon. And now I'm going to change this to, let's see, I'm going to go all the way down here, remove the anonymous function, press delete, and I'm going to say controller, and I'm pressing tab when I start to type and it pops up what I need. I can just see it's got index highlighted. I can just press tab. So at this point, if I save my changes, go back to PowerShell, or notice that it says it restarted it because NodeMon is running. Now I can go back to here. Page is still working. I have successfully moved my logic from the standard public and top level logic of the Express generator into a proper application with an app server folder containing my back-end app server logic using the MVC pattern. At this point, if I cancel out of here, it's now a good time to save. So I'm going to type in git add dot. That means I want to add all the changes to my file, and then I'm going to say git commit and give it a message of use MVC pattern to manage application logic. Now if I type in git status, there's no more changes to be committed. Notice too, back in VS Code, it detects that Git says there's nothing else there to do. So this concludes the lesson on taking a plain static website and applying the MVC pattern of using routes, views, and controllers.